Yeah, the best type of salt would be found from sea salt. So just search sea salt. And the reason why is sea salt has some trace minerals in it. It's a fallacy about the iodine thing. You should supplement iodine separately from salt
Okay.
because the small amount of iodine, just listen to this. If you think you know what you're talking about and you've ever said, oh, get iodine or iodized salt, and that way you have iodine, stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. And that advice will hurt people.
Oh, hello, my friend, and welcome to another episode of I Love Being Sober, sponsored by Camelback Recovery, Arizona's mental health and addiction treatment option to help newcomers on their path to recovery. If that's you or someone you know, then you're in the right place. Because my name is Tim Westbrook, and I'm the CEO and founder of Camelback Recovery here in the always sunny and always sober Phoenix, Arizona, where my team and I, over the course of many years, have helped thousands of people to stop their suffering and continue on their path to recovery. My guest today is a biochemist, an inventor, a behavioral nutritionist, an international speaker, and the founder and CEO of Upgraded Formulas. His name is Barton Scott. In 2015, Barton developed a unique industrial process using his background in chemical engineering to produce a new category of minerals called Stabilized Nano Minerals, using a nanoparticle technology that absorb very easily without the need for normal digestion, and at-home hair analysis testing to know which you need to restore the most fundamental nutrient deficiencies in the body quickly and easily. Barton is passionate about helping people address the stress of daily life, sleep struggles, hormone issues, fatigue, and the nutrient absorption issues that we all must solve. Barton, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hey, great to be here, Tim. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And we met at the Wizard Academy about a year ago. And then most recently, we just had another event there. And I learned a little bit more about what you do. And today we're going to be talking about upgrading your mental health. And we're going to be talking about minerals and supplements and all of those things. So there's a definite correlation between addiction, mental health, and nutrients and supplements and minerals. And that's the stuff we're going to talk about today. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, same here. This is something that most people have never heard. And when I say most people, I mean, even if you're a nutritionist, a doctor, a naturopathic doctor, what we'll talk about today will be new to you. So there's a lot of people that you could share this with because almost really no one's heard. I don't hear anyone talk about what we're going to cover today. So I'm excited.
Right. Absolutely. What gives you the right to claim you are an expert on minerals?
Well, I'm a chemical engineer, and I was able to create a process. I understood the problem well enough. I'd studied nutrition, and I understood the problem well enough because, I helped my own mother get better for a while. And then I ultimately realized that supplements were a lot better than drugs, but they weren't absorbing well enough to actually improve things. And what we did then was we were testing her hair actually to see the deficiencies. And that was great and all, except the products weren't working well enough. And it took a while to notice that. It took a while to realize that the products were not getting us from A to B the way we wanted to, where you could realize you could notice that you had a deficiency through a consultation and then go, oh, okay, this is, whoever the consultation was with that knew how to understand this test would go like, all right, so you need this mineral, or you need this one, and the results really weren't there. So you would improve some, but not enough to actually remove the deficiency.
Right.
So from there, I knew enough as a chemical engineer. It's what we do to build an industrial process using nanotechnology equipment. So yeah, this is an area that really I'm able to say knowing inside and out is like pretty obvious, I would say. Yeah.
So, for example, my magnesium I'm deficient in magnesium.
Yeah.
So my doctor, my naturopath says you need to take more magnesium. I take more magnesium, but it's not absorbing.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the problem, right?
Yep. And then, so now the way people are thinking of combating it doesn't work either, which is they're trying to do multiple forms, and that's just not how nature does it. Our body never asks for multiple forms. So there's a couple brands out there that do like every form of magnesium. That can be sort of confusing to the body. So understanding that, 12 years ago, that's what I was trying to focus on. And that's what ultimately I was able to achieve with this process. You can picture a plasma, if you can picture something like that, just like a gel. That's really what we're producing. And then we're encapsulating that, or we're just putting it as a liquid and, diluting it enough. So yeah, it's interesting. So from that, the book that's almost done now, will be out early next year, it looks like, is all around how nutrition, and this is what Tim and I were talking about, is how nutrition becomes personality. So, and he's like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, yeah, this is to me the most interesting aspect of nutrition, is that it influences our destiny, because our personality ultimately is just us and how we show up. It's a collection of habits, right? And those habits are based on energy levels. And those energy levels are completely determined by us, by what we take in and by what we subject ourselves to, or what we don't nourish ourselves with.
I think one of the biggest problems today is that the food that we eat is not the same as the food that we ate 100 years ago.
Sure.
So we're not getting the nutrients that are necessary to be healthy and live fulfilling lives.
Right. This is where nutrients really start to cause addiction, or lack of nutrients, I should say. Also, too much of certain nutrients also can cause just really irrational behavior, like anger, like too much iron. Interestingly enough, because the carnivore diet, for example, should be an elimination diet. You should do it for a little while and stop if you're choosing to do it. But when you do too much of it, you end up having too much iron, and then suddenly, you may find yourself being more aggressive or overly aggressive. And I can point to a couple of people I know in the carnivore community that are that way, and they weren't always that way. That was a personality shift.
Right.
So that's an example of how diet does it. And then nutrition is a little more nuanced. But, if someone has no anxiety, and then for some reason, I would strip the magnesium out of their diet, or the lithium out of their diet, they're going to have anxiety immediately. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like within a week, they're going to have, within a day, actually, of stripping it out, or like removing it. The way you'd strip it out would be kind of a gradual process, but the day that they become quote unquote deficient and their cells don't have enough of those nutrients, you can guarantee that they're going to start to exhibit addictive behavior, because the body is trying to soothe. The way I look at addictive behavior is, let's say it's just a simple, like, baseline anxiety, even, that pretty much everyone can relate to, where they have some point in the past felt nervous and either ate or didn't eat because of food, right? So on the didn't eat side, you didn't take in enough nutrients, probably, if you were actually supposed to be hungry. On the hunger side, if you weren't actually hungry and you ate, then you started to notice that you're going to lower your metabolism, which is going to affect your energy level, which is going to affect your habits, which is going to affect your personality, which is going to affect destiny. And it's just like that stack,
right.
And it's just going either way. Which way do you want to go?
Right.
So the way I really look at it is that, people almost can't help but be addicted if they're missing these nutrients. So the first thing really becomes testing. And then it's just like, what test is best and why?
What specific incident happened that caused you to be so passionate about minerals and nutrients and deficiencies?
Yeah, they're really two. One was losing my mom at 24, but she started to get sick at when I was 18. Mm-hmm. So, and just noticing, like, wow, all right, this is like these are the signs that this person who everyone seems to love is not just our family, everyone seems to love, is not going to be here for that much longer. And then sure enough, aneurysm, and she was gone. I remember thinking, wow, she had already retired at this point. She had, good medical care, access to drugs and surgery and, acute pain, solutions. But she didn't, like most people, she didn't have a nutritionist that she could really count on. She didn't have anyone as nutritional counsel that could really help her guide the ship, and we all need that guiding, right? So that was a big moment, and really for years I thought I was doing it more for me, because after that I was doing it for sure for me, but also driven a lot by the feeling like I couldn't help her nearly as much as I wanted to, because we were lucky, we were very close as a family. And but that was the downside. I was born to older parents, and ultimately, when I started to lose my mental health around, and certainly my focus and the like low mood, the depression that came with that, it was scary. It was scary thinking like, okay, so the goals I can set in life as I age will probably become smaller and smaller based on how much energy I have. Granted, your network expands and things like that, but what is life if you don't have the energy to live it? And I remember thinking, nope, this has to change. This is not, it's either not interesting or it's good, or it's right. Fixed. It has to be fixed, right? There's no way that we can go through life without it being interesting. So yeah, that's really how we got to here.
Okay. How do problems with mineral absorption impact your energy, your sleep quality, your adrenal and thyroid function, vulnerability to viruses and bacteria, and sex hormones in both men and women? And what can you do to address this?
It's really interesting. So the sex hormone thing, you need something called boron. We make something called upgraded boron. And that is a really important one that most people don't have, because most people are taking vitamin D, even if they have calcium levels that are very high, which in those cases, we recommend not taking vitamin D as a supplement, which might sound blasphemous, but it only sounds blasphemous for people that don't understand the whole picture. Granted, most people don't. Most people are not looking at the type of tests we're talking about right here, unfortunately, because they, I don't know, it's enough marketing around it. But it is life-changing. Our mutual friend Joe Polish has done it multiple times. People in the know or, do these things. Like many of the top entrepreneurs in the US now do it. Top people in health do this test. They may do others too. But you have to do this, and the reason why is what you're talking about here is a collection of elements, and we call that the periodic table, and that's what we're testing for, and we're doing it in hair because it's a lot better. And we can talk about how it's better and why it's better. It's a lot safer, it's a lot faster, and it's a lot more, it's just a lot more accurate. So, and you see a lot more data. It's a lot more cost effective too. It's more affordable. So you can do it. We're talking about doing this a couple times a year at least, but ideally quarterly, and that gives you a map. And then with that map, you can answer this question that you're talking about here, which is, what minerals? And those minerals really are, iodine for some of the, you listed off quite a few different things there. Adrenal health would be magnesium, which we just did a clinical trial, full double-blind clinical trial on our magnesium product called Upgrade Magnesium. So that's something that I personally take daily, because the soil, like you were saying, Tim, is so depleted. And then sodium we think is bad, and it's not. Our bodies need it, and bad things happen when we don't have enough of it. Typically, and this is why we offer a hair testing, so that we're not guessing. We actually trademark that phrase, test don't guess, because testing and not guessing is just, it's elemental to any scientific process, right? You have a hypothesis, yes, but then you test it rigorously, and then you look at the feedback and change your approach if needed, right? So adrenal health, magnesium, sodium, potassium. We have all these products if someone's interested. Really, we have everything that you could talk about on the side of the minerals, because we need to have a solution to everything that someone would encounter on a hair test. Doesn't mean that so that's the view of it. That's the approach.
Okay, so first with hair. So if you're someone like Joe Polish who doesn't have hair, how do you get the hair?
Totally. Joe, yeah, he's so great. You do underarm hair if you shave your head like Joe does. So you do underarm or pubic hair. So
Okay, so you can get hair. Okay.
yeah, those are the best
And
places to get it from. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So now why? So I've taken, what's it called? Blood tests that
Yeah.
are pretty extensive.
Right.
So I don't know if it's called complex blood test or pretty
Yeah.
extensive blood testing. And why is hair so much better than extensive or
Yeah.
comprehensive blood testing?
Well, the reason why is because hair is stable. Hair is tissue. So think of tissue, this phrase tissue for a second. Now, blood is pulling from tissue like bone marrow and organs to actually make sure that your blood is just about perfect. And the reason why is if your body pumps blood that is not perfect into organs, those organs can shut down. So, are you with me still if you're listening to this? So, what does the body do? Knowing that is ultimately the first rule is to make sure that we live beyond today. So, and then the second rule is anything after that. So now that isn't good for long-term bone health, and that leads to osteoporosis, osteopenia, any of the bone issues. It leads to a lot of organ issues. It leads to calcification of joints, where the body starts storing extra calcium because most people are, they're eating dairy products. It's a 25-to-1 magnesium ratio when it used to be like a 1-to-3. Ideal is magnesium is 2-to-1 to calcium with anything you take in. So, most people really have so much more calcium, for example, than they have magnesium. So this is something that you want to look at there. And all of this drives addiction, by the way. I don't know if hopefully that's clear to everyone,
Right. Addiction and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like, do you love your day, or so if you've gotten out of a lot of the addiction tendencies, do you love your day? Do you have enough energy? And that's usually going to dictate how much you love your day.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard that before. There are specific supplements or nutrients that potentially could cause anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I've
yeah.
never heard that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So I'll give you a fun study. So there's a study, you can Google this. It's lithium, which is an element.
Okay.
And we have that in one of our products called Upgraded Mood. And it also has some magnesium in it. It has a couple other ingredients like chromium for blood sugar. So when they did a study, and this was done in the US, but it's true for anywhere in the world that has low amounts of lithium in the groundwater. So the groundwater, what you're drinking, right? Tap water. When they found what they found is the areas that had the lowest amounts of lithium, any guesses?
Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. So the lowest, well, what I'm saying here is like, let's say, so I could ask that a little differently. So let's say it's in the US, and the areas that they found that had the lowest levels of lithium in those areas. So let's say it's Arizona, it doesn't matter where really.
Uh-huh.
But what did they notice about that location?
Close to water, far from water.
Yeah.
Close to mountains.
These are interesting thoughts, but the thing they noticed in the study was the areas that have the lowest levels of depression, or the lowest levels of lithium, had the very highest levels of both suicide and depression. So, yeah, so lithium is important. You don't need much of it, but you need some of it. And so I put that into Upgraded Mood with the other nutrients. And that's like one of the things that I would give to any addicted person. The cool thing about minerals is that they're water soluble too. So if your body, needs less of it, it's just, you're going to pee it out if you're getting from a supplement. So, but using nanotechnology, we're able to, and using the testing, we can look at the things that we know you need and make sure that you absorb it fully. So, and again, we did clinical trials on this and we've had the company for almost 10 years now. So, it's safety. We third-party test every batch, but our real focus is getting people well, and we actually get people off of, or we get them so well that they go to their doctor and tell them, by the way, like, hey, this is my experience. I haven't been using my sleep meds because I don't need them. Anxiety meds, you should work with your doctor, obviously, and find a doctor that knows more than just medication. And this is how you find out. You ask them, so what diet advice do you have for me? based on my lab work or based on my results, based on our conversations. And if they have no advice for you, it means they're like most doctors that, it wasn't in their curriculum, and you should find a different doctor that knows, or you should just work with someone who you trust their nutritional knowledge, a nutritionist or anyone else, because that's the type of person you should be seeking. So I hope it makes sense for people when I say that. There's a lot of well-meaning doctors out there that had no idea what they're learning in school. And to this day, they don't realize that they don't know what they don't know. And I would consider it malpractice for a regular MD to make nutritional advice if they are not trained in nutrition. And I mean, it's common knowledge. I've said this on probably 100 podcasts, but you can look all of this up. So
well, and nutrition is a very small, tiny portion of any curriculum for an MD. Is that
right? Yeah,
is
it's
that
like an
accurate?
hour or two, or like 1 to 3 hours, which means like one class,
Right.
and those are garbage classes that like a 12-year-old could pass.
Right.
So I mean, it's not much of anything, and if anything, it's bad advice. It's like I can't even remember. It's the kind of thing where, like, as a smart nutritionist, you go, I see what answer they want on this test, but
Right.
but I guess to make an A in this class, I'm going to circle A here. It's
Right.
like, oh
Right.
God, I roll. And then, I mean, how are you going to help yourself from that place?
In your
Much
experience,
less other people. So.
is an MD or a naturopath more likely to be educated on and knowledgeable in nutrition?
Naturopath, for sure. They're actually studying it. And the only in MD, as in Mary, that would be good at this would be someone that has done studying and training outside of the normal MD curriculum. There's not an MD curriculum, period, that includes good nutrition knowledge at this time. So now there are plenty of nutritionist schools like IIN, FDN. My friend Reed Davis owns FDN. Really like them. IIN, also very good. There's 4 or 5 really good schools. All of those give you a lot more knowledge. If you're just looking to educate yourself, you can do a lot of these in 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on the program. The more serious ones are like 6 to 9 months of like intense stuff. And if you haven't done anything like that, it's tougher than maybe your college courses, depending on the person. But yeah, I mean, it's these, you can find out. And they call that alternative, but it's just alternative to drugs, which should be the real, alternative. Should be the real, like, save for later, do not use except in case of emergency.
So you mentioned upgraded mood, which has lithium in it, correct? And why would someone want to take that? And I also heard you say that someone can't take too much because you just pee it out. So who would you recommend take your upgraded mood without going and getting the hair test done?
Right. Well, I wouldn't recommend that anyone takes a whole bottle of it, in a day or something like that. But that's true for any supplement, right?
Right.
So in terms of, like, I just want to give a disclaimer there. Yeah, the hair test is easy to do. So I'll first disclaim that and say that, you really want to know, and that's how we would normally know if someone is low, is we would look at their lithium levels, their magnesium, their chromium levels, and a few other things at a minimum on the test to understand what they're low in, what are the ratios, more importantly. So the way the first time you look at this test is you look at the things, and this is the wrong way to do it. You look at these individual minerals, and then as you graduate to more understanding, you start to look at ratios. And those ratios are things that show you your adrenal level, your thyroid level, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So very helpful, because then, like, I stopped doing Dutch testing because every time I would do a Dutch test, it would show me the exact same result as my hair test. And I largely don't do thyroid testing anymore either, because I've tested my thyroid many times and it's always said the same thing as my hair test. So yeah, blood is just like you on your best behavior, to answer your question from earlier too.
Right.
And hair goes back, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks of data when you look at an inch of hair closest to the scalp. Now, some people don't think through it much and they're like, yeah, but I have, hair down to my shoulders. It's like, well, what do you think we would do? Like, of course, we wouldn't analyze all of that. Like, that would, I mean, think about it for more than like literally a second. And then, sorry, I don't want to, come off as mean, but like we have to look at it. We just look, we know how to do it. We look at the part closest to your scalp, and that's the freshest hair, and then that's where we want to make changes, right?
Mhm.
And then we want to redo it in 3 months, and we look at it, and sure enough, like I looked at my test over the summer, and I'd been pushing really hard, and I didn't like the results weren't great, and I've improved since then. Thankfully, I just did got the results back last week. And I mean, it's really helpful. You can do it from anywhere, even outside the US. So yeah, it's important.
You mentioned a Dutch test. What's that?
It's an adrenal test, and it's way more expensive than what we're talking about here with the hair test. And I find it bothersome because ideally you're waking up in the middle of the night to collect a urine sample, the middle of the night. And then other people will tell you, oh, you don't have to do the middle of the night. I disagree. Like that's how the test is done ideally. So, and it only shows you adrenal from a few different angles. Yeah.
And you get the same information from the hair test. Gotcha.
If you have someone that reads it right, but yeah.
So I was going to ask this question later, but I might as well ask it now. How does someone find someone to analyze their hair? I mean, you do it. Are there other people out there that do it?
I mean, that was the issue that I had run into. And that's why, I don't do it anymore myself, but we have a team of nutritionists that have created formulas that does it. And then we have a course that practitioners can take if you want to learn how to do it well. You learn all the nuances. For example, how do you find hidden copper toxicity? It doesn't come out and point to you. How do you find iodine deficiency if it's not directly tested for? It's like, well, here's how you do it, and fill in the blank, so on and so forth. And anyone that doesn't know it super well won't be able to tell you things like that. So you can ask those 2 questions if you're not working with one of our practitioners.
Do certain minerals have lower absorption rates in the human body than others?
Yeah, in general, like some things just don't absorb that well. Like chromium is the example. It is tougher for some reason. It seems the reason, it's not a mystery. Some of these nutrients are competing with other nutrients for receptor sites. So that's part of it.
I have a question on sodium. Sodium, I think most people are aware, but not everybody is aware that we need sodium.
Yeah.
And can you get sodium from just table salt, or do you need to go somewhere else to get the correct type of sodium?
Yeah, the best type of salt would be found from sea salt. So just search sea salt. And the reason why is sea salt has some trace minerals in it. It's a fallacy about the iodine thing. You should supplement iodine separately from salt because the small amount of iodine, just listen to this. If you think you know what you're talking about and you've ever said, oh, get iodine or iodized salt, and that way you have iodine. Stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. And that advice will hurt people. So, all right, now to set the record straight, that amount of iodine would never be enough. Remember, you have to run now. For anyone that was like, well, that doesn't sound right. Tell me if you can. Just answer in your head how much iodine you need on a daily basis. And you'll realize pretty quickly, pretty much no one knows that answer. But it's not 1 milligram, which is about how much you get in a lot. You get like 9 milligrams of iodine in a whole jar of iodized sea salt or iodized salt of any kind. So you need a lot more than that. To put it into perspective, Japan eats like 15 milligrams of iodine per day. And they're the healthiest, longest living nation, except for the parts that just adopted our fast food chain. And they've seen their blue zones actually get declassified as a blue zone because of it. This happened just recently. So yeah, you need more iodine separately, and you need to eat sea salt, and you can salt your water, salt your food. Your body will pretty much, this is something else you can test for in hair, is your sodium level to other minerals like magnesium and potassium. and your body will not take in too much salt for the most part if it's good quality salt. You'll start having diarrhea before that happens. Your body will start going, I've had enough salt for today. And in the same way, your body won't let you oversalt your food if you're at all in touch with your taste buds.
Right. What about the sodium and electrolytes that's in Noon, for example, the Noon tablet?
I'm not, I can't speak to a specific product like that. I wouldn't want to, denigrate a specific product, but I'll say just in general, most products, if they are, flavored, especially artificially flavored, there isn't a focus right there. You can know there isn't a focus on quality ingredients. And if you're in the desert, something's probably better than nothing. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you don't want to, since you're not in the desert and you have all these options, you need to just plan better, buy better products, and spend a little more, spend a lot more, whatever it is, but have good nutrition, because good nutrition always pays for itself.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the iodized table salt is probably not the best. And this is why whenever I go out to eat, I always ask for the Himalayan pink salt or some type of sea salt, because I know, my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that iodized table salt or table salt in general is depleted of 99.9% of the minerals.
Yeah, exactly. It's junk. It's really junk salt. And
it doesn't make sense. Why do they do that? Why do they deplete table salt of all of the minerals?
I can only guess that it would be from a cost perspective, but I don't know why. Don't know. Maybe they found it tasted more salty,
right?
The kind of idiotic things like that, or it was easier to nail a consistent salt profile, which again, I would disagree with that. It's usually driven by either like we want to make it tastier or cheaper.
Right.
Because that's how those large companies think. So, but which one or both, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do vitamins require minerals to be effective?
Well, minerals activate the pathways that these vitamins need. So boron, for example, activates, vitamin D. Mm-hmm. So if you have no boron, which very few foods, it's something I take daily because very few foods will you find boron in them.
I've heard that you should take, or I should take, chelated magnesium, for example. What does it mean to be chelated, and does that matter?
Yeah, well, no, the answer is no there. And really the difference is having a new technology that mimics food, the way the body is harmoniously used to taking food in. So chelated just means that you have attached a different chemistry group to that nutrient. So, and the goal is to have it, absorb better that way, except it takes it from 10% absorption to 15% absorption, or 20. And it's like, we want to go from 20 to 100, which is about what we do.
Okay.
So we do that for whether it's magnesium or selenium or iodine or a memory product or a thyroid product or etc.
So let's talk about Quinton Hypertonic. I've been taking Quinton Hypertonic for a while. I take it on a daily basis.
Small amounts. Yeah. It's a small amount thing. Yeah.
Right. And for those of you that are not aware of Quinton Hypertonic, it's essentially seawater, and all of the minerals from the periodic table are included in this Quinton Hypertonic. And so they do have some great marketing, and they've had some very convincing thought leaders, but ultimately amount first if you just rationally think about it. Now, it's one of those things where it will not hurt your health at all ever. It's just, are you interested in how much it improves it based on how small of an amount? So we're looking at about an ounce. And that ounce is not really, or not even an ounce typically, but that whatever that amount is, if you're doing that daily, is it effective enough to actually move the needle? And from what I've seen, it's no, not really. There's nothing that special. We could do that exact product. We have sort of a more concentrated version of that product, and it's called our Trace Minerals product. And it has, all the elements as well. And then we have upgraded tea, which is interesting. And this actually answers part of what you asked earlier. You said,
like which elements are supporting men and women's sexual function or sex hormones, which, the goal would be to, better sexual function. So that, to answer that question, I created something called Upgraded T, which we're also doing a clinical trial on right now, because to show fertility improvements in men, and we'll do it again for women. We're doing this because we've seen so many couples struggling with fertility issues. And this product, I mean, it worked on it for quite a while. A lot of research, went through all of Ayurveda, basically all Chinese medicine, found the best extracts, the right amounts, the clinical trials. There's about 50 clinical studies on this product when you look at all the ingredients separately. And the problem is, with most companies, to save cost, they go, okay, cool. So this product, called Tim Westbrook is amazing, and we need 100 milligrams to replicate the study, but they only put 50 in there, or they put 5. And then they'll still say, hey, we got it in there. And most people don't remember that it should be 50 or 5. But the effect is that they can charge 80 or 100% of what they would, because someone's just name shopping. They're like, oh yeah, Tonkat Ali. Right. The thing is, most Tonkat Ali that you're taking is not the one that's been clinically studied. We use that one. But that one is almost about $4,000. It's like $3,600 a kilo. Okay. And that's with a good relationship. Yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's happening and why, and, why is this product more expensive and things like that. But that product, actually, we're seeing boost testosterone 30% in 90 days. Seeing that's something that's very easy to measure with a blood test. That's the example of that, is so straightforward because of that hormone. But again, you're looking at a hormone at that point, not a nutrient level. The nutrient level is that whole discussion we had earlier, just to clarify. So, is there a question that you wanted me to ask you today? Something that we didn't talk about? No, I feel like we covered a lot, and enough for someone in a first episode to go and understand the power of hair testing, how nutrient deficiency leads to addiction, depression, even suicide in the worst case scenarios, based on specific elements. People can always find more free resources on our website, our YouTube channel, upgradedformulas.com. So yeah, that's really everything. And then if you'd like, I can give people a code if they want to check anything out. So yeah, let's give them a code. Cool. So guys, thanks for listening. I really appreciate your time. And you can use code Barton10 at checkout for 10% off. Just Barton, because you can. For 10% off, you said? Yeah. Okay. And I guess you already answered. So upgradedformulas.com. You have a YouTube channel, Upgraded Formulas. You have an Instagram channel, Upgraded Formulas. And so if someone wanted to move forward with the hair testing and they wanted to move forward with your services, how would they just reach you through one of those? Yeah. Of those avenues? Yeah, we have great customer service. They're based in the US. They can answer a lot of questions. If you want to really open your eyes, very affordably, you can do a hair test and you have that mailed to you. So there you go. That's really the path. You can take all the supplements just as directed. And if you know for sure that you need something, or you feel like you already have a lot of anxiety, taking Upgraded Mood, this is the answer to your question earlier, by the way. You can just take it as directed. It's a supplement. So, and then, if you already know, hey, this person has a lot of anxiety. And then beyond that, maybe they have anxiety because their adrenals are weak and it's contributing to it. And they're having blood sugar issues and that's contributing to it. And they can take some different solutions. But basically, what I want to say to answer that question is any health condition has its basis in this. So, and then when you have more minerals in your body, you actually protect against what we didn't talk about much, that we also test for in hair, is heavy metals. So that's all in one test. You get all of that. But minerals protect against heavy metals, which is awesome. Well, that pretty much does it for our time with Barton Scott today. And I'm excited because I'm going to move forward with the hair testing and come back for the next episode with Barton, because we're going to talk about my hair testing and how that went. So I'm really excited. And this was an insightful episode, Barton. Thank you so much
for your time today.
Thank you, Tim. Such a pleasure. Good to see you again today.
Thanks everyone for listening. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of I Love Being Sober. If you found this video to be of value, be sure to like it, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos, leave a comment if you have a question, if you've got something to say. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism. So if you or someone you know is struggling, be sure to reach out to us. You can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, or our information is in the comments section below. And we provide everything from detox, inpatient, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services. So either we'll be able to help you or we'll be able to refer you to people or treatment centers that might be a better fit. So I will see you in the next video.